What's up, everybody? Welcome back to day 4 of Celebration Bowl week. We got some coaching changes, I guess. I guess they're changes, hires, Celebration Bowl, Band of the Year. We got a lot going. I'm here with founder of HBCU Game Day, Stephen J. Gaither, and Wilton Jackson from Sports Illustrated. Once a HBCU Game Day intern, I'm an intern. You get it. Yeah. We're here.
He's an alumnus.
It's day 4, Celebration Bowl week. Let's get into it. We got Fred McNair, Texas Southern University. I guess. I don't know. What the hell is going on over there? I mean,
it's maybe in New Orleans.
So, as the one who wrote the story, yesterday, HBCU Sports reported that. Wednesday, HBCU Sports reported that Texas Southern is close to a deal with Fred McNair, longtime coach at Alcorn State University. Of course, these deals are never official until the Board of Trustees puts their stamp on it. So Alcorn State is apparently still meeting, trying to do last-minute negotiations to see if they can convince him to go. But right now, it's looking pretty good for the Tigers. That deal that's been reported on their docket is $310,000, a pretty good sum of money, and it's going to be tough for Alcorn State to kind of match that. That's kind of where we are as of Thursday at
2:23 p.m.
2:23 p.m.
Now listen, I heard 313. Nonetheless, don't forget his extra 3,000. Don't forget his extra 3.
Hey, yeah.
But Wilton, we were talking off camera, and you had some thoughts. So what do you think? What is going on? What is going on down in Texas? Is Fred going to Texas?
I mean, it looks that way. It looks like he's gonna, obviously take his talents to Houston, to Texas Southern. Obviously, that hasn't been fully finalized yet. But I mean, you're talking about a coach that essentially is the face of Alcorn. Like granted, obviously there have been other coaches before him, but he's built. His brother, obviously Steve McNair, Alcorn alum, like he is Alcorn, and it's just like to know that like he could be potentially leaving out of Alcorn. Does this necessarily keep Alcorn in the same place, and especially with them having been 2-3 years in the SWAC West? Does this keep them in the same in the same spot, or do they drop? Personally, I think they drop a little bit if he does leave. That's not to say that they can't still get good players and they won't be able to play a competitive brand of football in the SWAC, but I just think that it's gonna take a step back in some ways, in my opinion. Even it just depends on who they bring in, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, Texas Southern, for them, I think that's definitely it's definitely a big win for them. They have a program that they're in a big city, they're in Texas, which is definitely a football state, but they don't have any really extended history of winning. They haven't had a winning season in over a decade, and so they are starved for some winning football there. And Fred McNair at Alcorn State has done so much with so little. We know he's got I think he got them to the SWAC championship game 4 times, 4 East titles, 2 Celebration Bowl appearances, some near misses. And so he's done a lot with a little. And the thought is, I guess, if you're Texas Southern, you've got some money to play with. It's just about whether or not you feel like being serious about being a football school. And, the McNair move would signal that they're serious, because he's a guy who not only has been a coach, but he's won. So there's a lot riding there, and a lot of eyes will be on what happens in Houston.
Now, moving upwards a little bit, we have Chennis Berry to South Carolina State.
Is official.
Is official. If you saw the presser, Chennis Berry was being who Chennis Berry is.
100%.
100% being who Chennis Berry is. Now, nonetheless, he was a back-to-back champion in the SIAC, right? He won back-to-back, and he's bringing some luggage with him, and it is official. So, where do you guys land on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the rest of the SIC folks are happy that he's gone outside of that one street in Columbia, because across the street of Allen, I'm sure they're glad he's gone as well. But a great move for South Carolina State. I think they're a program that if you know anything about HBCU history, he called them one of the blue bloods. So they have the most titles in the MEAC. Yes, North Carolina A&T, they have more than you. just an extensive history of winning, putting guys in the NFL, 4 Hall of Famers. So they have all the ingredients to really shine. He was at a Benedict program that had the opposite, and he took them where they had, low expectations, and he put them on to back-to-back winning seasons before he left. Now, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Expectations are a little bit different in Orangeburg. They expect to win. They were here in Atlanta a couple years ago, and they got the job done. They've also had Buddy Pugh. Before that, they had Willie Jeffries. And they just have a history of great players and coaches. And so he's the next in that line, and they're excited about him.
When you talk about, a coach like Chennis Perry and for him to come after a coach like Buddy Pugh, you're talking about a legendary coach that will go down in history at South Carolina State. Chennis Perry has big shoes to fill. Mm-hmm. And granted, you couldn't think of a better person, even with his brawny personality. When Chennis Perry walks in the room,
he sounds like a bulldog.
Yeah, when he steps in the room, he's gonna command the room. His personality is gonna demand that, and I think that's the perfect fit for what a physical or what we've known for a South Carolina State team to be. That's the perfect match.
And so after that, Terrence Graves, Southern University. I don't have much, but what is the thought? What's circulating the HBCU metaverse there?
Okay, so here's the thing. So obviously Southern earlier this year they parted ways with Eric Dooley. He was a guy that people were very high on. He's Pete Richardson disciple, and had done a lot of great things. They were expecting those things to happen at Southern University under him. They did not. So now they bring in Coach Terrence Graves, who also a Pete Richardson disciple. He actually played for him at Winston-Salem State University back in the 90s. And, he's been on a lot of successful staffs. He was also on those Grambling staffs that were really good, I believe, on the one that won the Celebration Bowl as well. So he knows how to win. He's been a career assistant, and some people will say that this is a safe hire, and I would agree. It is a safe hire. He's somebody who's already on the staff. He's somebody who knows the SWAC, who knows Southern, and there's a lot of energy behind him. A lot of people are happy for him. I know a lot of people, we thought he was going to get some other jobs, and he's been up for him. He's been close, but this time he actually went through for him. So I think I'm excited about it, and I think a lot of people are too, to see just kind of what he can do.
I think it's a good move for Southern. I also think it's the safe move. You're talking about it's December, right? Transfer portal is wide open right now. We know the landscape of college football, so you had to get somebody in. With obviously Dooley going out and things like that, I don't necessarily know where Southern falls within the SWAC West right now, what that means for them next season. Will they be potentially in contention for another, SWAC West crown if they're being in contention for it? But I just think that, kudos to Graves for getting the opportunity. I mean, he's been some different places. He's been at Southern before, like you said, Pete Richardson disciple, had experience going up against Graham. So you know what that means. The Bayou Classic will be interesting. Lots of storylines to talk about. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do in a very limited amount of time in terms of recruiting, bringing in players and things of that nature.
We got to talk about this too, though. You talk about this hire. Because we are in the media business, right? So we had earlier in the week a report came out where Southern's AD Roman Banks was quoted as saying, they had some guys in here, but they wanted a Power 5 level salary, and they just don't have that level of salary. And he said, which is, it's okay to admit that, but the actual quote was that this is a low-paying job. Or the pay might be low. Mm-hmm. That's what was said. And that is not really, you're not really going to inspire a lot of confidence, outside of those 4 walls with those types of statements. Especially, when, you're at a place where people expect to win, and there's so much pride there, Baton Rouge and everything like that. I was actually in Baton Rouge last week, and, that was what the talk was. It was like, why would you put that out there like that? I mean, so it's going to be, for Coach Graves, I know he's going to take it with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. This is something that he wanted to do his entire career, is be a head coach. He's paid his dues and everything like that. And, we talked about Wilton, we talked about, during the Deion era where, it looked like there were going to be a lot of former NFL guys that were going to skip over guys that were going to go to that were HBCU lifers like Terrence Graves. I think it's great that he's got a shot to do it, and if he ends up winning the SWAC, getting Southern to the Celebration Bowl, I think there's going to be a lot of I think that's going to validate what a lot of people thought.
Oh, if he gets to the Celebration Bowl and wins the SWAC, it's going to be, oh, my God, I'm so glad we hired Terrence Graves. This was the best thing we could have ever done. But to your point, though, when I hear the statement that you said that Roman Banks said, it reminds me of a statement like my parents used to tell me as a kid. Like, there's some things that you don't just come out right and just say. You might think a certain way, or you might have a certain bias toward it, but you shouldn't let it just come out. And I think more so with anything, I think everybody, if you're familiar with SWAC football, HBCU football, and the resources or the lack thereof at different times and in all the different schools, you kind of know what you're walking into. That doesn't mean that you want it to be that way, but at the same time, the notion and the saying of you're doing more with less, that's understood. You know that going in that, I'm not going to let this stop me from helping my players graduate, helping my team win a championship, or in this case, between the MEAC and SWAC, potentially playing in a Celebration Bowl. So I think that, more than anything, again, it's going to be interesting to see how Terrence Graves handles this situation, coming into the head coaching role at Southern. And like I said, I wish him nothing but success to see what he does for the program.
Well, I think what's interesting is the low pay, like you said, low pay, high expectations, but also SWAC has some of the highest paying job vacancies or whatever you want to say in FCS football. So when you say that, when you put that out, how do you guys expect other coaches to be reacting to that? Ones that might have thought like, hey, a storied program like Southern University, why not give it a shot? Why not go down there, help out some young black men? Why not? But with the low pay, high expectations, why is that? Why is that the case?
I actually talked to some coaches that were in the process and interested in some of these jobs, and one of them told me that out of the jobs that were vacant, they felt like Southern offered the best chance to win early. So there is some prestige with that job. There is a lot of history there. There is a lot of excitement there. But again, we talk about the changing landscape of college football. Even at the HBCU level, where we had, I know a lot of people don't like to say his name, but Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, come in, and it had this small spring season, but then he went and won 2 championships back to back fairly quickly, and maybe that's the new expectation that that coaches are going to do that quickly. Again, Southern is a place they expect to win, all the time, and that's been their MO since Pete Richardson got back there. But nevertheless, we talk about Hugh Jackson over at Grambling State, who they still have a vacancy. They gave us the 7 to 10 days, and we're on like day 13. So, we're you talk about the expectations of a guy like Hugh Jackson, who came in with the name, who had had a not a great season the first season, in the middle of the road season this year, but they got rid of him very, very quickly. And you even look at Southern, they got rid of Dooley very quickly, 2 seasons, where they had a coach prior to Dooley. And let's just be honest, Coach Dawson Odoms was very good at Southern. He always had them in the hunt. Always in contention for that SWAC West title. If they didn't win it, they won SWAC West titles. He did win a title in 2013. But from what I understand, there was always some tension between him and the fan base. And we get to that situation with the fan base, and it's a tedious thing because everybody's passionate about it. Everybody has high expectations. Everybody wants to win. But that takes money. That takes resources. But every place is different too. You look at Odoms, he left Southern, went to Norfolk State, and actually Dooley got fired and won, I think, more games in 2 years than Coach Odoms has won at Norfolk State in 3, and Coach Odoms is still ticking. So that just speaks to the difference in cultures and everything too, right?
And I'm glad you said that because it made me think about this. You talk about money and resources. It also takes time. Like just because you have – and how many times have we seen teams that are not even just within HBCU sports but sports in general have every great player, have all the right pieces, and still might not get to the promised land? And it really does take time. So you talk about that level of having expectations. Like, yes, fans, they want to win. Southern is definitely a strong fan base that if they step on the field, they plan to win. They plan to compete for championships. They want their team to compete for championships right away. And I think
just in the SWAC championship.
Exactly. And it's just like you have to remember that, these coaches, they're taking these jobs thinking that, okay, I'm giving the promise that I can lead this team, or at least attempting to lead this team to a championship. But at the end of the day, it all comes with a combination of multiple things. And I think when you look at with Southern and Dooley, like who gets mad at the fact that you have a coach who gets to the SWAC championship game, or he's always putting a team in contention to compete for a SWAC championship game, but he doesn't win. I mean, you got to think about what he did before even coming to Southern. Well, before we get to that, think about who he had to face, year before last against Jackson State in the SWAC championship game. You went up against essentially a unicorn. Like a locked and loaded Jackson State team under Deion Sanders. Like, I mean, could he have been beaten? Obviously so. South Carolina State and North Carolina Central showed us that. Right. But at the same time, like, it was hard to do. That doesn't make it an excuse, but at the same time, like, you lost to this guy.
Well, they alluded to the fact that it was more than just wins and losses with Coach Dooley, which again, that there's so many things that go on in a town, in a city, and again, Southern is a very tight knit community. Everybody's very passionate about it, and so it's like like I'm from a small town. It's like if you don't speak to somebody. If you don't speak to like 3 people, you might get a reputation for being stuck up, and you might just be having a bad day. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know that that's the case there, but there's just so much that can go in a tight-knit community that can impact it, and it's real. But now you have to deal with the reverberations of it. Now, I know Dooley was getting paid over $300,000. Do you have that again to keep forking out? There's so much of that. So there's a lot of layers to all of this for sure.
And then one thing I want to point out for Terrence Grace, which I like, and I think he's probably going to like this too. Louisiana's a hotbed for recruiting. Definitely. High school, junior colleges. He knows it. Exactly. You've been at Southern, you've been at Grambling. Like, you have the capability to get some of the best players to essentially kickstart this team to potentially compete for a SWAC West crown.
So speaking of expectations versus reality, we talked about the long story history of South Carolina State. Going back to Chennis Berry, he's obviously bringing some of his luggage with him. Maybe Louis, maybe not. However you want to interpret it.
YSL,
he might have
YSL, Gucci,
a combination of it.
It might be a Nike duffel bag. We don't know, right? Nonetheless, Chennis Berry going to South Carolina State, and what is the expectation there from this long story school? With just a lot of things, a lot of expectation built up over there. He's going an hour down the road or so. What do you think is the reality based on the expectation that there is to win?
I think the reality is the MEAC is a small league. There's only 6 teams. You got North Carolina Central, who's been at the top, but you talk about the transfer portal. I mean, between losing Davius Richard and everybody, it seems like everything that isn't nailed down in Durham is in the transfer portal right now. So, we'll see what that looks like. Obviously, the team that's here, Howard, they're having a lot of success. They're having success in the conference. So, we'll have to see what it looks like as far as, what their longevity looks like, how they look going forward. You got Morgan State, who's building who has a similar situation, building under a guy that came from D2 in Damon Wilson over at Bowie State, and I know the rest of the CIAA is glad that he's gone. So now he's over in the MEAC. So I think there's a lot of up and coming coaches and a lot of up and coming programs, but I think that there is an opportunity for South Carolina State based off of the players that they have. If they can keep them out of the portal, the players that Coach Berry's bringing over, there's over a dozen guys that are in the portal and from Benedict right now. And Coach Berry was very plain. He's going to be bringing some of those guys over, like you said, and just his whole energy, I think, maybe resonate with some of the young men that they're going to be trying to recruit. And so I think that there's a very, very good chance for success for him. I think they just have to really understand that, it may not be year 1, it may be year 2. Generally in the MEAC, they're a little bit slower to make that turn. But if there would be a MEAC team that would be swackish when it comes to that, it might be South Carolina State. But they like stability, so.
Yeah, I think he has a good chance to help them get a successful start. I don't think they're going to necessarily win the MEAC, like Steve said, in the first year, but they're definitely going to give some teams some run for their money. Like North Carolina Central, like they're gonna play North Carolina Central tough. Morgan State, Damon Wilson, we know the defense that they have and what they've been able to show. That's going to be a tough game. Even like Steve said, also Howard. Like Howard's not going away. The job that Larry Scott walked into and what he's been able to do, and they're now playing in the Celebration Bowl on Saturday. Like they're not going away. This is only the beginning for what their program is going to see. So Chinnisberry, he has his hands full in walking into a MEAC that's going to be very competitive. But he's just as competitive. Like we know what he did at Benedict, and he's going to be able to, he's going to look to duplicate that success in the MEAC.
You know what? There's a good chance next year he could be here. And I only say that because, Coach Berry has done very well against the HBCUs. The question for him, and the thing in the MEAC is that you have that first,
Alabama State.
You have that first part of your season where, half of your schedule is non-conference teams. So you're going to play, you're going to play some FCS teams in the CAA or in the Big South, or if there is a Big South left, it's Big South OVC. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then, so they're going to have to do that. But hey, in the MEAC is a league where if you get hot at the right time, you can go. So I think we can see anything go, and there's a good chance they could be here next year. But I think it's that wide open, and I think Coach Berry's locked in down there in South Carolina. He doesn't really have to change a lot. He's just got more to work with.
Speaking of, you said they might be down here next year. Speaking of this year, though, we have FAMU and Howard here in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. Obviously both teams have had a very successful year. You talked about it. Howard got hot at the right time. I don't know that we thought Howard would be here. I don't know that people were picking Howard to be down here at the beginning of the year. I don't think anybody picked Howard.
It was North Carolina Central's race to lose. I mean, let's be honest. Last year, Howard got the MEAC co-championship, and it was treated like, oh, that's cute.
Right.
You know what I mean? They got a co-championship even though they got dusted by 30 points. Well, they took that to heart. If you guys saw the videos that our Game Day North team did, shout out to them early in the year when they went up to Morgan State and Howard. They were talking about, how they felt like they could get to the Celebration Bowl, which, that, like I said, there's teams that people have been waiting to get to Celebration Bowl. Howard is not. Programs that people have been waiting to get to Celebration Bowl. Howard is not one of them. But they're here now, and that's because they persevered. They had on the target all year. They really had, even though they took a stumble against South Carolina State, they had a boogeyman in the closet, and that boogeyman was North Carolina Central. They called him that red team in North Carolina, and there's only one red HBCU in North Carolina, Howard. But anyway, they wear maroon. But they took the task. They got it done. They're here in Atlanta, representing the MEAC, who has been the bully in this game, the entire time has been there. So,
and I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, right? We got FAMU in the last 2 years. Jackson State
finally FAMU. Jackson
State was here the last 2 years and lost, right? So Howard obviously has something that they can accomplish here. But what is the expectation here for FAMU?
When I look at this game, I think it's going to come down to which team can run the ball. I definitely feel like the team that's the most physical is going to win this game. You kind of alluded to this, that level of physicality that has been absent from the SWAC when it has went up against a MEAC opponent. FAMU has been physical all season. There were times where Coach Simmons has said that the Rattlers didn't have the physicality that he would like. This Saturday wouldn't be the time for them to not have that physicality because Howard is they have an aggressive defensive line. The offensive line is strong up front. You talk about a quarterback in Quinn Williams can throw it all over the field. Their running backs, oh my gosh! Like
that three-headed monster is nasty.
If you love good hard running at that too, like this is the team that you want to watch. But I'm gonna say this: I'm gonna pick FAMU in this game, in a close game. I just think that the Rattlers have a little bit more in terms of athletes and athleticism, and I think that's gonna essentially pay off more than anything in this game.
I will say they better protect Musa.
Absolutely.
Protect Musa. FAMU needs to find a way to get the ground game going to protect Musa because one turnover, one interception, one turnover could be costly for FAMU.
And not to mention the Bison have one of the best secondaries in terms of getting turnovers off opposing quarterbacks in the MEAC. So that could be a huge asset for them going up against Musa if they're able to get pressure on him.
Pick?
Man, it's tough because history tells me that the MEAC is going to win this game. I've been to every one of them, 7-1, and every time, I think the physicality of the MEAC has overwhelmed the SWAC team. Especially the last couple years. I think that month off definitely helps that. I think that's a big advantage. But I think that FAMU. Some people still want to say this is a MEAC versus MEAC game. No, it's not. FAMU's in the SWAC, but its coaching staff, under Coach Simmons, he knows what he's going to be going up against in a MEAC team. He knows what it takes, the type of physicality that they're going to need. I think that, everything this year, their thing the last couple of years, they've been sitting here, they've been watching this game like that should be us, for whatever reason, they weren't able to get over the Jackson State hump. They've been waiting and watching. Now they're here. Now is their time. If not now, when, FAMU? If not now, when? So I think, man, I started in the A like this. I'm going to end in the A like this. FAMU, come on now. It's your time. Get it done. Get it done. Get it done.
We have a FAMU pick. I think we have two FAMU picks.
We absolutely do.
We have two FAMU picks?
We do.
I'm from Virginia.
Uh-oh.
I'm here. I go to Morehouse. I've been here in Atlanta the past 2 years to see Jackson State get rolled by MEAC teams.
You also saw them kick Morehouse's behind earlier this year.
You know what?
You're a believer. You're a believer. I get it.
You know what? So I did see that three-headed monster go crazy, absolutely ballistic.
Biblical.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Not too much.
Not too much on the Maroon Tigers, all right? No, I did see Howard do their thing in person, live, under the lights, in the nation's capital. They are for real. I think FAMU is going to have to protect Musa, like I said, and they're going to have to find a way to get that run game going. But, man, have you seen that offensive line from Howard? That is an FBS-sized offensive line, one that's definitely going to protect Quentin Williams back there. And I think I'm gonna roll with Howard. I'm gonna roll with the guys from DC. But it's day 4 of Celebration Bowl week. Tomorrow is day 5. Tomorrow is Friday at 6 p.m. We have Band of the Year.
Yes.
We got A&T.
The inaugural.
There you go. We got A&T. You like A&T? You going with A&T?
You can't even say that name too loud around Steve.
I know.
Do I like A&T?
Yeah. My fault. I had to troll a little bit. We got A&T. We got Jackson State. Wilton, you're from Jackson, Mississippi. Are you riding with your guys from Jackson, or is that you picking somebody else? I know it might have been hard for you to pick FAMU, but you rolling with your guys from Jackson, or what we doing?
I'm gonna say first and foremost, I am definitely and always going with the Sonic Boom of the South. I just had to put that out there right there first. But I'm excited to see what this competition is going to be like. And I know, Steve, we talked about this offline, but, a lot of people, you have to remind people that it's not about just, the songs that's being played in the stands. Like, this is about the field show, the auxiliary, to see, the War and Thunder drumline from Jackson State, the J sets. It's going to be a show. Like, I've been privy to have watched them a lot of times during the halftime shows from this season, and I just really feel like I've seen a lot of clips in real live shows from Jackson State in games this year. They've been like on steroids, and I just really, and I don't say that lightly. Like their sound, their execution, everything about the Boom has been, splendid.
You got A&T. You gonna pick A&T? You gonna pick your guys from North Carolina?
Ooh.
sorry, man. Can you just give me?
Man, put that camera on me, dog.
Can you just give me a band pick, please?
Young sir. So, North Carolina A&T. Aggies. Blue and gold marching machine. Now, if you know me, I'm a Ram through and through. I got to live in North Carolina with all of y'all Aggies. Everywhere. Always talking. Don't matter that y'all won one game this year in football. Y'all are still talking. That is who y'all are. That is what y'all do. I love to give North Carolina A&T grief as much as possible. But one thing that I cannot joke about with North Carolina A&T is the blue and gold marching machine. Those guys are good. They're for real. They're solid. And I like them to win this. I love the Sonic Boom of the South. I had a chance to hear them a lot recently. But I think their field, it's a field show, right? This is about a field show. I think it's a little bit cleaner. A little bit, it's a little cleaner all the way around. So North Carolina A&T, blue and gold marching machine, really golden delight. And, do your thing. So you're going to talk regardless for the next 365 days. You might as well bring home something.
I have no dog in the race here, but nonetheless, we have a D2 battle as well. I believe you got Florida Memorial. This is a great time for them. This is a new program started post COVID. And then you got Virginia State. I think we'll have an interesting show put on for us. Thoughts, picks?
Yeah, I like, both of these bands I think really have great stories. And big shout out to John Grant and the Band of the Year, the folks at ESPN, for letting us be on the ground floor of that selection process. So I've had a chance to actually, hear from the folks, the chairs of the committee, what reason these people were picked and everything like that. And I learned so much from that. Florida Memorial is a program, again, they did not have a football team nor a band prior to the pandemic. They made the decision to go for it. They're a small HBCU in Miami Gardens. And so this has brought a lot of exposure to their school. So they're very excited about it. They are the newest HBCU band. And when this event was announced here in Atlanta back in July, I don't think many people had them in mind that they would be here. And so shout out to them. Their band is called The Roar, so great for them. And then also, so you look at Virginia State University, the Trojan Explosion is their name. They are one of the oldest HBCU bands. I believe their band director told me that, they feel like they may be the oldest HBCU band because some of the folks who fought in the Civil War afterwards, they came and went to, some of their descendants went to the school at Virginia State University, and so they had a band. So there's a lot of energy there for them as well, the Trojan Explosion. I'm going to let them represent for the CIAA. Winston-Salem State, we were 7-point short. We were third. I was a little heartbroken, but you know what? There's always next year. Shout out to the Trojan Explosion, bringing it home for the CIAA.
I think for me, when I look at the D2 band competition, you talk about just the idea of Florida Memorial having a band. Like, as a person who played in a band in high school, like, it's not easy to be in a band. Like, you don't just go out there and it's like, oh, I have my horn and I'm just marching and I'm getting to march however I want and it's just going to be perfect and all the harmony and tunes are just going to come together. It's hard work. Like, you're putting in multiple hours, days, weeks of getting drills right. You're putting in hours of, like, private sessions with your actual section. We're not even going to talk about like what it's like to have sectionals on top of the long hours of band practice. Oh, by the way, and you still have to perfect the field show, and that's not just during like regular normal hours. Like, yeah, you might have practiced from 7 to 10. Okay, that's 7 to 10 a.m. Well, what about from like 10 p.m. to like 1 a.m.? That's a real thing. Band life is real. So to know that, like, how could you not, cheer for Florida Memorial, like for a program that didn't have a band. So to see them here, their alums, their students, all of the, that particular fan base to come to Atlanta, a place like this, and really get a chance to see their band perform. I mean, I think it just speaks volumes to what they're doing in their program. And also, obviously shout out to Virginia State as well.
Well, I want to say that I appreciate you guys. Stephen J. Gaither, founder of HBCU Game Day, Wilton Jackson, an alumnus of HBCU Game Day. I am Kobe Scales. Tomorrow, please come back tomorrow to tune in. We have a Friday super show for you all. Lots of HBCU reporters analysts,
personalities,
everything under the
people
sun.
everything under the sun. The whole
people with Twitter
HBCU
accounts.
people with Twitter
Oh, gosh.
accounts. You know, the whole HBCU metaverse world, whatever in sports, is down here in Atlanta right now for the Celebration Bowl. So tomorrow we have a Friday super show coming at you guys with takes from all of the HBCU account holders, the analysts, the personalities.
Maybe not all. But
Maybe not all of them. Nonetheless, a good few of them.
Come
very
back.
good few.
Come back, please.
Come back, please. Come back.
you got to see who shows up.
You got to see who shows up. You just got to see. I could tell you, but you got to see it for yourself. Come back tomorrow. Kobe Scales, Stephen J. Gaither, Wilton Jackson. We're signing out.